Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and to be able to talk with you for a few minutes about the Weber Basin system and just a few things that we're doing within the Weber Basin system. I know most of you are familiar with what we try to do, but we were created in 1950, local sponsor of the Bureau Project, and really what we tried to do is just go in and try to, be able to develop the system much better than had been developed at that point. We went in, built a lot of large dams, pipelines, trunk lines, canals, and they really tried to develop the water resources within the Weber Basin water system. Also, protecting against drought was another one of the objectives, and then protect against excessive spring flows. I don't know if we're really going to have that problem this year, but it's not looking like it. But we will talk a little bit more about some of the flood control aspects of the system. There's our service area. We service 5 counties, 2,800 square miles, about 750,000 residents that we service. And then we have 50 plus cities, water districts that we serve drinking water to. And then we have about 30 plus irrigation districts that we serve irrigation water to. So it definitely keeps us busy. We deliver different types of water, ag, secondary, drinking water, industrial water to those 5 counties. We O&M the USBR, the Bureau of Facilities, and try to keep facilities working properly and functioning. 500 miles of pipeline, 22 deep groundwater wells that we augment our surface supplies with. And that's a job, keeping those wells operating. We only run them in the summertime. And when you shut a mechanical device off like that over the winter time, it's very difficult to get things moving again. It's just like when you're on the couch, for an extended period of time, very hard to get moving again. And so I understand, how these wells feel. We've got 4 water treatment plants, 3 hydroelectric power plants, and then 7 dams throughout the watershed that we store water in, that we operate. The only one of these 7 that we don't operate is Pineview. But the rest of these facilities, in conjunction with other agreements that we have, we operate these dams, and shows you each facility and then the storage associated with that. 2 on the Ogden, and then 4 on the Weber, and then our big bathtub at the bottom end, which is Willard Bay. And that's kind of our catch-all reservoir where we can catch everything that passes down the system. So what is flood control, and what are we really trying to do when we make releases for flood control? Obviously, 2023 was a huge year for us. The snowpack was really unbelievable, especially the mid-elevation snow was some of the highest that we have ever seen. The snow up at Trial Lake and up at the upper elevations was actually higher in 2011. So we actually have more water coming out from the Trial Lake area, 10,000 elevation level in 2011. But in 2023, our mid-elevation snowpack, in that 8,000 foot range was just unbelievable. I know you had folks in Ogden Valley that basically had to dig out of their homes. I took my kids up there and we went to a park there, and the Bowery at the park was totally covered. I mean, you couldn't even see the Bowery that they had there. And so it was impressive to see the mid-elevation snowpack that we had in 2023. So that was a huge year. And then that was the first year that Riley was actually on board to operate the system. Maybe it was the second year, actually. It was the second year. So he had the driest year on record that we had in 22. And then in 23, we had the most. So he really got trained those first 2 years on the job. But anyway, what we're really trying to do is have strategic early releases. So we have water that once we start releasing water, we want to ensure that always maintains our flows downstream, and that we don't exceed our safe channel capacities in those facilities. And so, a lot of water has to be released in early spring. And I know there's a lot of armchair quarterbacks that disagree with some of the decisions that are made. And I totally understand where they're coming from. And we get a lot of help sometimes from people calling in and saying, hey, you're releasing too much, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. And so we kindly listen to that information, but then we move forward, with the best information that we have. And I'll talk about some of that information. But we really want to try to ensure that we never exceed that safe channel capacity below the reservoirs. So the data that we use to help make these decisions are soil moisture data, our SWE, snow water equivalent, weather forecasts that we can see coming down, and then our stream gauge data as well. All of that data goes into a different formula that is ran by CBRFC, the Colorado Basin River Forecast Center. We really rely on their forecasts, and they're looking at this closely. So we get an official forecast from CBRFC every 15 days, and then we have a daily update that's not official, but we do have a daily update, and we're looking at all those forecasts that are coming from the CBRFC. We also are looking closely at our current reservoir storage, where the storage is at. And then we also have the Army Corps of Engineers has these storage diagrams that have been developed years and years ago. And we really look at storage levels, what the forecast says, how much water is planned to go through the reservoir. Like in 2023, we could fill 3 Pineview reservoirs. That's how much water flowed through the system in 2023. And so we really operate and look closely at these Army Corps diagrams as we operate the system. Sometimes we go back and forth in terms of, at times it's asking us to release more water than we think we should, because you really don't know what's going to happen a week later. But we work with those agencies as close as we can to make those decisions. And then these are projects that we've developed or that we've pushed forward to help us move more water in the system. So this is our lining canal project of Willard Bay. We're a little over half done now with lining Willard Bay. This is a large canal system. We've been working on it for probably 10 plus years now, and maybe even 15 years now that we've been working on this system. And the problem is we only have a tight window that we can use to line these canals. And so it's basically the end of the season until January 1st. Then January 1st, we need to start taking water again down the canal. So we got to jump in, get as much work done, and then pull out. And so anyway, this is another photo here. So this will double our capacity in the Willard Canal. It'll go from 1,000 CFS to 2,000 CFS once we get this project completed. We've probably got another 8 to 10 years left of canal lining, and then we'll actually have some structures underneath the freeway that would need to be updated and changed as well. And those are not going to be simple projects to complete. So it's definitely going to be some effort. I just wanted to review quickly how our storage is in our current reservoirs. And so you can see, so these diagrams here, the black is this year, the red is 24, the blue is the average, it's a 5-year average, and then the purple is a 20-year average. So that gives you an idea what each reservoir looks like. Kazi is not really a flood control reservoir. It fills and spills every year. So probably not as important there in that reservoir. But Pineview Reservoir definitely is flood control. You can see we're a little lower than we were in 24, but we're still higher than the 5-year and the 20-year average. So looking okay. One Ship, Rockport, and Echo. You can see the two reservoirs there. Again, lower than we were in 24. And you would expect that, right? I mean, 23 was a huge year. We topped everything off. We actually came really close to topping everything off in 25 as well. In fact, most of our reservoirs spilled in 25. But you can see the hot, dry summer of 25 and the use that we've seen. We're definitely lower than we were in 24. And so a lot of that has to do with the hot, dry summer. And then Lost Creek and East Canyon, you can see where those are at. Again, similar trend, actually following the 5-year, pretty close on those reservoirs. And then our Willard Bay Reservoir, you can see it's quite a bit lower than the 5-year average. We're about 40,000 acre feet lower than the 5-year average. We actually had a large project we're actually completing out there where we're putting a new low-level outlet. We have existing siphons that we pump water up and over the dike. That's just buried in the dike, but we deliver water to Compass Minerals. Well, those were corroding from the inside out. And we don't know how much time we have left in terms of the corrosion in those two large pipelines. And so we had to do this project. We actually we notched the dam, cut the dam out, had huge coffer dams that we built. And then we've put a low-level pipeline, from inside the dam out. And so it's a huge project. So we actually had to lower the reservoir to be able to complete this project. But then in terms of our longevity, reliability moving forward, we'll all feel much better when we get those corroding two pipelines, siphon pipelines out of the dike. So anyway, so that's why that reservoir is a little bit lower. Then to finish up, we'll talk about our SWE here. You can see this is what's really dismal right now. And you can see where we compare there to 2025 and then to the green line of the median. We had a pretty good surge there like a week and a half ago where we tried to come up, but we're 66% of the median right now. So not good. I mean, that is the concern right now. We need a lot more snow. You can see we were setting records there at the end of December. Actually, the lowest it has ever been in any year into December, first part of January until you can see we're outside the red there. So now the graph will be changed forevermore because of, fall of 2025. So it's not very often that we set records like that. It's not like Miss Pac-Man or whatever, that record that's being set there. We don't want to do this. These are bad. So Stephanie. But, and then I think that's my last slide. This is soil moisture. This is the comforting news, or the positive news, is the soil moisture is really high. That's because the ground hardly hasn't frozen up in the upper watershed. And every time it rains, it's able to just receive more moisture. So you can see we've been adding a lot to the soil moisture lately because typically we don't add much. It freezes up there and then we don't add a lot of soil moisture, but that hasn't been the case because of the mild fall, early winter that we've been having. So anyway, this is the good news. So let's hope we keep getting storms. I know when you press the meteorologists and, you really got to loosen them up if you want to get the information out of them. You got to take them to the bar. You got to take them to the nightlife. So they let their hair down. And then when you really press them, what's going to happen? They said, okay, it's going to be dry December, January, February, and then it's going to snow in March. Okay, so, but you got to really loosen them up to get that information out. So if they're correct, we should see snow in March. So, but it better snow a lot in March. But anyway, yeah, that's my presentation. That's my summary. I think I've used all my time. So anyway.
Thanks, Darren. Just a question about the reservoir releases to make space, essentially, is what you say for storage and runoff. How have you been working, or are you working with the functional flows effort that the state and others are working on to make those releases for ecological reasons as well, and not just timing based on making space?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that is something that I would say over the last 5 years, we've been working with the Division of Wildlife Resources a lot more and working on those functional flows. At times they've requested, hey, can we have a little larger surge here instead of, maybe more of an even flow? And so where we can, we've tried to accommodate that. Sometimes they want like a pulsing release. Sometimes they want a larger release all at once, and then we slow it down. And so where we can and where we've worked with the Division of Wildlife Resources, I would say really the last 4 or 5 years, we've tried to work with the division and tried to help them as best we can. I mean, there are limitations to what we can do, but when we can work with them, we do so. And that's something that's really materialized the last few years, I would say, as we've continued to develop those relationships. So.
I was wondering, when I look at this is like my brain doesn't know how to think differently, so I'll try to explain it. But if I think about all the water, say I'm up by Smith Morehouse, and I call that 100% of water or something, and I'm just curious, when we think about all the water from its starting point to its ending point for the Weaver Basin, how much telemetry in software world, it's called your code coverage. How much of your code are you actually running tests against versus how much code isn't being tracked and tested against? So in my head, I'm thinking about code coverage or telemetry coverage on our water sources, or how big's our leaky bucket in terms of how much do we know about our water? Because when we do the releases, I'm assuming at every one of these reservoirs, we have the data for the releases. And so we know those things, but we don't know the water coming off of those. What's kind of is there a goal to say every year we want to go from 5% to 10% of our water being actually tracked and more confidence in where it's going, or just a little bit of understanding there would be helpful?
Yeah.
Does that make sense a little bit?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, as far as the releases out of the reservoirs, how much being released, we have, good flow measurement on the river, right? We have stage measurements. We know, how much water is flowing down the river. In the operation of the system though, there definitely could be a lot more metering that needs to be done as far as, once we deliver that water or into a canal, right? And we divert it. Once we divert it off of the system, there could be a lot better measurement in the system itself on where exactly that water is going, how much is going there, who's taking it. I mean, there's some pumpers here and there that we've tried to get metered, right, throughout the system. I know the state engineer's office works a lot. The river commissioner works a lot with different folks. I think as far as, the watershed is concerned, snowtail, that kind of thing, I mean, it's great. The more information we have, the better decisions we can make. And so we're always looking for better information that way. I feel pretty good about the releases that are being made. And then we got the Plain City gauge on the bottom end that we really know, how much water is actually going, west of that point. But I think overall, a better measurement needs to be made on some of the diversions. Once we divert the water, I think we need some better measurement on some of those for sure to help know exactly where is the water going, how is it being tracked, who's using it. I think there's some deficiencies there on the system. Yeah.